Hi, and welcome to this demo of AWS EKS and Kasten K10 by Veeam. Use three simple commands to get Kasten K10 by Veeam installed into our new EKS cluster. We're going to use helm repo add to add the Kasten repo. We'll create a new namespace for Kasten, and we'll use a simple helm install command to install Kasten K10. Here we are. We'll paste in our Kubernetes token, and we'll log in initially and accept the EULA. And here we are into the Kasten K10 interface dashboard. As you can see, it's a nice clean HTML5 interface that automatically discovers any installed Kubernetes applications. Let's install our first application. I like to use WordPress as a great test application for Kubernetes clusters because it installs a database backend with two persistent volume claims. You can install WordPress using the commands listed on the screen. Once that helm install command has completed, we can go back to Kasten K10 and see that it automatically discovers the new WordPress application. You can click Details on the application pane to view all the application details, including the persistent volume claims, the config details, and the networking details. To protect this application, the first thing that we need to do is set a location profile. Location profiles are where Kasten K10 protects data to. In this case, we're going to use AWS S3 bucket with object lock enabled. Object lock will protect our application against ransomware and other malicious activity that might delete or otherwise modify our backup data. Let's enable immutable backups, validate the bucket, and set our protection period. This will guarantee that our data is unmodifiable or removable for that period. As you can see, Kasten K10 lets you know that object immutability has been enabled. Let's create our first backup policy for this WordPress application. We'll set our backup frequency, make sure that we enable our backups to our S3 object bucket. Validate our settings and create our policy. Let's click Run Once to run this policy now. From the K10 dashboard, we can watch the progress of our backup. In the action pane here, we can watch the policy being run, and we can click on it for more details. Let's delete this application now so that we can test our recovery functionality. We're going to use kubectl delete namespace to completely delete the WordPress application. As you can see, the application is now gone from the K10 dashboard. However, if we go down to status, we can actually see the removed application from here. And this allows us to recover the application. Let's select our recovery point and click Restore. This will restore the application back to its original location. And our WordPress application is back online. To initially set up multi-cluster dashboard, it's a single command using the K10 multi-cluster tool from the command line. Once K10 multi-cluster dashboard has been enabled, you can see that we have a new multi-cluster dashboard interface within Kasten K10. This allows us to link any number of Kubernetes clusters and distributions and access them all from a single K10 interface. As you can see, we have our EKS US East 2 primary Kubernetes cluster. And now what we want to do is add our secondary cluster here, and in this case, it's an EKS Anywhere cluster. Just by pasting the contents of the kube config for the secondary cluster, K10 automatically discovers the properties of that cluster. We can give that cluster a friendly name here. I'm going to call it EKS Anywhere, with the ingress URL for the Kasten K10 interface installed on that cluster. And validate our final settings and click Add Clusters. Kasten K10 automatically imports that secondary cluster into this dashboard. One final step is to grant full permissions from this K10 over to that secondary cluster, and Kasten K10 makes that very, very easy by auto-populating the permissions dashboard and cluster role binding. If I click on the EKS Anywhere card, that'll take us to the EKS Anywhere cluster, and you can see that we only have one application installed in this, and that's the default namespace. And finally, we want to migrate this WordPress application from our US East 2 cluster over to our EKS Anywhere cluster using the process of exporting an application and importing an application. We're going to create an export policy for WordPress. We're going to copy our import policy code and watch as Kasten K10 prepares WordPress for import into a secondary cluster. Once our export policy is complete, we are now ready to import WordPress into the EKS Anywhere cluster. We'll create a new import policy. Select Restore after import. Review any options. We'll paste in the config data for import that we collected during the export process. And let's click Create Policy. Let's run this policy now to start the import process. We can follow along with the import process right here in the Kasten K10 dashboard. Once the WordPress import has been successfully completed, and we've confirmed that our WordPress application has been successfully imported. That's it for our demo. Thanks for watching.